Hello everyone, my name is John Moy and welcome back to week 5 for my summer reading. This is from the 15th of July to today, the 21st of July. And I read 3 books this week and then started another one. So for those who haven't watched before, I'm going to go through a brief non-spoiler section for the books I read this week, talk about what I started and what I'm reading next, and then go into a little bit more in depth of a spoiler review for the books I finished. If you're just checking out this video for the first time, I encourage you to go see the first 4 parts of this series. And further ado, let's get into it. The first book I finished, which was The Last Continent by Terry Pratchett. This is the sixth. This is the 6th Wizard novel, and by far one of my favorite. It joined my top 5 of all Discworld books of all time. It has a perfect mix of a unique setting, and Australia, and the setting, which, given the kangaroo, Australia is a hilarious setting for it. Which is just Australia is just a great setting. It's hilarious, but great setting, funny Rincewind moments, but also for the first time, funny Unseen University staff moments. We get a little bit in Interesting Times, but here we get a lot more of the Unseen University staff, which I really loved. And really, it's just it's such a fun novel. I really enjoyed it immensely. Then I finished Mistborn Secret History, and this was fun. This was interesting, and it was just it wasn't as fun as The Last Continent was, but it was interesting for me at least to see what's happening behind the scenes from Mistborn, from the end of Mistborn Book 1 to the end of Era 1, and then kind of like the start of Mistborn Era 2. It was just interesting it's a lot of information. It's more lore, especially with how much the shards play into this novel. It's much more of a Cosmere lore-heavy book, but it was enjoyable. And then the third book I read is Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. And that's because I am not the greatest. I'm not the biggest fan of kind of the more darker fantasy. Yes, I've started Malazan, and that does stray to that end. But I figured that I've heard the first laws are super awesome. But before I picked up the Blade itself, I heard that Half a King was his young adult series, and so I wanted to get this book and just to see if I like Abercrombie before going into a series that is darker than I typically read. But I really enjoyed it. It had great action. I really enjoyed the characters. And this was a super interesting read. It was a quick read. It was much shorter than I expected. But I highly enjoyed Half a King. And then what I'm reading next is currently the only book I started this week was Unseen Academicals, and I'm enjoying it a lot. It does remind me a lot of Snuff and Raising Steam. The last couple of Discworld novels all have a very unique feel to them, and I like those novels, and I have definitely been enjoying Unseen Academicals. But when it comes to what to read next, I don't have. I need recommendations, so if you have recommendations, put them in the comments below, because I'm running out of books. The Half the World is coming into sometime this week, so I'll be sometimes this next week, so I will be able to read that. And then I'm picking up the last Discworld novels I have, all the young adult novels plus The Last Hero. Yumi is coming in soon, but that's pretty much it for a 4-person gap for me to finally get Arcanum Unbound. So if you have recommendations for what you want me to read next, because I have a lot more summer left and I'm running out of books, put them in the comments down below, so that I can have something to read for the rest of the summer, so I don't run out. But yeah, I'll see you in a moment for the spoiler section. All right, so for the spoiler section, just quick things. The Last Continent. Spoilers for this is, I don't have a lot because I don't want to ruin the jokes and the story for this one above anything else. There's a lot of punchlines in here that I really love, but spoilers for this is I love the wizards on the island, especially with Miss Windlow and the god, where just their awkward encounters with her, and then eventually the scene with the god where he's asking about sex is hilarious, especially for a bunch of wizards who are like 80 years old and celibate. So funny moments there. I love seeing the other university and the similar archetypes, and really it's just the setting, getting to see all of like the Australia things in this fantasy novel and how Rincewind interacts with them. The setting, it really is what does this book for me. It's a lot of fun, and I just had so much fun reading it. That's probably you're gonna hear me repeat that a lot. That's probably the best way to describe this book, is just fun. Spoilers for Mistborn, Secret History. Seeing what Kelsier got up to was interesting. I was super interested with the Ire, and seeing the Elantrans and seeing more Elantrans, because it's been a while since I read The Lost Metal, but the only Elantrans, and I haven't read The Emperor's Soul yet, but beyond Elantris, the only time we've actually seen the door used is the Sorceress from Trust of the Emerald Sea, and then here in Secret History with the Ire. And I'm sure the Emperor's Soul will expand more upon that, but getting to see more of the Elantrans, getting to see Preservation's death, like actually seeing Preservation die, seeing the true power of the shards, especially Ruin, and his influence with for those who have spikes, and seeing just how powerful the shards can be, because we do get that with Odium, but seeing that it's not just Odium, it's every one of them. And there was the scene in Oathbringer where that is very reminiscent of the scenes in here where Kelsier is looking into Ruin's essence, which I did find super interesting. And I do imagine as the Cosmere gets bigger and as Kelsier continues to be an important role, I really would like to see him punch every single one of the shards. I think it would be super hilarious, and I'm really excited for that. And then spoilers for Half a King. The action here is so well written. Whether it be the action on the boat where they fight their way free from the wind spray. I'm pretty sure it's called. I don't remember what it was called, but they're fighting their way free from the wind spray. Whether it was in the Elvish Keep, where they finished off the captain, or even that kind of final scene where, or even that final scene in the Keep in the Godsaw with King, with his uncle and his guards was super. The action in this is great. One thing I do find super interesting and super that I really like about Joe Abercrombie is his characterization is great. I think that there was no characters in the book that I think had poor characterization, and they had complex characterization. Sometimes characters, I've definitely read fantasy where characters are one-dimensional, and even in other phenomenal fantasy, characters may not be one-dimensional, but his characters are much more in depth than I was expecting, and I really love that. It's much more in depth than even some great fantasy that I have read. And I've heard that this is even an inferior version of the characters he writes in the First Law trilogy. So all of that is making me super excited. After reading this, yes, I definitely will be reading First Law once it gets in from the library. I'm definitely hooked on Abercrombie. But those are my spoiler thoughts for the 3 books I read this week. The Last Continent, Mistborn Secret History, and Half a King. And so this next week, I will be putting out a video talking about one of my favorite series of all time, the Randall Munroe collection. And so I want you to keep an eye out for that. Once again, if you have book ideas, put them down in the comments below. If you haven't seen the previous episodes in this series, go check that out. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.